All right, here we go again. Attorney General Loretta Lynch, newly installed at the DOJ, announces that the Justice Department will investigate the Baltimore Police Department. What is this? Is it an attempt to federalize police departments across the country? Well, here is the Attorney General in her own words explaining her rationale. Watch.
The issue really goes beyond just the interaction between the police and the community, because we're talking about generations, not only of mistrust, but generations of communities that feel very separated from government overall. And so you're talking about situations where there's a flashpoint occurrence that coalesces years of frustration and anger.
That, if you're wondering why people looted CVS, it's generations of frustration and anger. You can understand that, knock over an ATM.
So what she's really talking about is excessive force. And the problem with that term is that it's a loosely based metaphor. There's really no exact definition of excessive force other than after you've subdued a particular suspect, if that person has been subdued and then the police exert excessive force beyond that, that's when you have a problem. And there have been a number of reports over the past couple of years that have looked at excessive force, and it ends up convictions come down to about 0.5% in any case. So it's not like there's an epidemic problem of it. Maybe the media paints it as a larger picture than it actually is.
Yeah, DOJ is going to look for, as you said, excessive force for unlawful searches and seizures, arrests, and did they discriminate? And if they are found with violations, the practices will be changed and will be enforced by the courts. This isn't the first time the DOJ has investigated other cities. If you look at this, we have a full screen up of Cleveland, Albuquerque, Ferguson, Missouri, and Baltimore. Those are 4 other cities that have been investigated by the DOJ as well.
Right. And all of these investigations, of course, have resulted in compulsory diversity training, which is basically an attempt by the federal government to control the minds of local police departments. And you wonder, will this result in safer communities? And by the way, does the federal government have a right to come in and run your police department?
Well, some members of Congress hoping that will be the case. Also, I think Al Sharpton is also calling for that as well.
Of course he is.
But how this was all covered by this weird moment yesterday when this was rolled out, these announcements from the DOJ. This came just as the NYPD out on Long Island was burying one of its own, of course, a police officer, Brian Moore, who was shot in the head last week and then fatally died a few days later after confronting a suspect who had a gun in his belt loop and said, "Hey, what's in your belt?" He was shot in the face inside the police car. This announcement from the DOJ about Baltimore happened just as this funeral was unfolding on Long Island.
Right, that's the problem here. I mean, couldn't they have waited a few days? We're burying one of our own. Here in New York City, I mean, all over the country, we were reporting on this. You had officers from all the 5 boroughs there attending his funeral. You had a cross-country array of officers showing up as well. Officers from Canada showing up. All of our local newspapers have his mom and his dad and his sister just sobbing at the funeral. And then the DOJ has to announce this on the day that we're burying an officer who did the right thing.
Here's a response from Congressman Peter King of New York. He was on the Kelly File. Watch.
To me, it was the height of irresponsibility to be doing that at the same time that this brave cop, a neighbor of mine, Brian Moore, was being laid to rest. Here's a cop, 25 years old, 150 arrests, shot through the face and through the brain. And, they're out talking about investigating cops. The fact is, everyone in America should be given medals to the cops, and Brian more than anyone. And the fact that he got such a large turnout today shows to me that real Americans, real people on the ground do appreciate the cops. Unfortunately, too many in the national media and too many politicians listen to the likes of Al Sharpton.
Well, we'll have much more on that throughout